I've worked hard to build a good life for myself. My name's Juan. I was kicked out of my house at the age of 15 by my stepmother. Well, guess what, guys? It looks like the tables have turned because my stepmother found out years later that I've made something for myself and I've gotten a good job, have my own house, you name it, I have it. Well, she came back to me crawling with one crazy request, and here is what the request was. Hey guys, I'm Juan, 27 and male, and I'm a marketing manager. So my story goes back to when I was a kid. My mother I lost to a deadly disease when I was at 12 years of age. It was the most dreadful day of my life, which still sends shivers down my spine, which I still remember to this day. A few years later, my father remarried a woman named Ruth. I was happy to welcome her home, thinking she would fill the void my mom had left. But sadly, she was nothing close to a motherly figure. She was not at all affectionate towards me. In fact, I did not exist to her. She never asked me for food or checked on me when I was sick. She didn't even talk to me properly. In the initial days, my father asked her to serve me dinner, but she refused, saying I was not a kid anymore and I should serve myself. In fact, she would make me cook on some food days myself, saying that boys too need to learn household chores, although it was a blessing in disguise. A 14-year-old child does not understand all these things, right? I was devastated. Most afternoons when my father was away for work, she would call her jobless friends and cousins to hang out with her and literally make me the waiter for her party. She and the other women constantly called out my name and asked me to serve drinks and food. When the guests left, she would make me clean the kitchen. I was too naive and scared to report her behavior to Dad. After a few months, I mustered the courage and told my father about these things. He was shocked, angry. He raced to his room to confront her, but nothing happened after that, and neither my father told me anything nor did Ruth's behavior change. So, I guess she was able to convince him that she was teaching me household chores. Anyways, her torture lasted for a year, and when I turned 15, she urged my father to, quote, get rid of me. She said I should be put in a hostel to learn life skills as I was too comfortable staying at home, and I too wanted to get rid of her. But I didn't want her to win. By then, I hated her because of what she had done to me. The reason she wanted me to move out was because I was no longer obeying her orders. I started talking back to her, and whenever she held a party at the house in my father's absence, I would lock the door and never answer her phone calls. I turned into a rebel, basically. When she first brought up the topic of letting me move out, I revolted. I said it was my father's house and I had all the right to live there, but she used her tears. And you know what I mean. Well, other stuff she used to convince my father. She argued that she needed privacy in the house because she was pregnant. She said I was a spoiled child and stressed her out. Hence, she wanted me to move out so that she could have a peaceful pregnancy and I could get schooled. Once my father was out of town for 2 days, it was a cold, chilly winter. When I returned from school, I saw my belongings outside of the house. I rang the doorbell, but she did not answer. She popped out from the first-floor window and yelled at me to take my stuff and leave. I just stood there, yelling back at her and banging on the door. Our neighbor noticed it, and she was Grandma's friend, an old lady. When my mom was alive, my grandparents used to spend their weekends with us and make friends with the neighbors. That old lady invited me to her house and called up my grandparents. An hour later, my grandparents arrived and insisted that Ruth open the door, but she did not open the door for them as well. She said she was married to my father and knows no one but him. My grandparents took me with them and gave me shelter at their house. They lived in a single-bedroom apartment because they could not manage a large house. I lived on the living room couch, which was much more peaceful than living with Ruth. My grandparents were not that well off. They survived on their pension money, and earlier, my father used to help them in whatever way he could. But after Ruth came into his life, she made him cut everyone off financially. I felt bad for piling on them, so I took up a part-time job along with my final year of schooling. I worked really hard that year and secured a partial scholarship for a marketing program at a reputed college. I took out an education loan to fund the remaining amount, and yes, I missed some details about my father in between. When my father returned from the trip, he found that I was not home. Ruth told him that I fought with her and disrespected her. That's why she locked me out of the house for some time in order to school me. However, I turned violent and tried to vandalize the place. Yes, I did try to smash the window with the flower pots and destroy the plants, but dude, I was locked out of my own house without any explanation. What else do you expect from me? So, when father returned and saw the broken window panes and pots, he bought Ruth's version of the story and did not even bother to check with me. I too accepted this harsh truth and just moved on. Hence, I worked extra hard to secure a scholarship so I did not have to take money from my father. Well, when I could secure only half a scholarship, he offered to pay for the remaining amount, but I took an education loan instead. My grandfather mortgaged his house, and I'm forever grateful to these two souls for, saving my back. After my college hours, I took up a sales job for a credit card company where I got a decent pay. I lived frugally and saved most of it, and soon after college I got placed in a reputed firm, and within 3 years of my job I could repay my education loan. It was a proud moment for me, and I took my grandparents on a mini vacation to celebrate the occasion. They had been my strength and support after my mother passed. Even on my graduation day, I did not invite my father, but my grandparents. Fast forward to this date. I recently bought my 3-bedroom house and upgraded to a fancier car. I'm doing well at my job and looking forward to settling down in a few years. Overall, life was going well. But suddenly, my stepmother Ruth appeared out of nowhere, and a couple of weekends ago, my doorbell rang. When I answered it, I saw a familiar face. It was Ruth. Since I started seeing her after so many years, she has become non-existent to me. Before I could react, she came inside the house. She started admiring the interior, the furniture, and everything she saw. She patted me on the back and congratulated me on a good life. She then asked me how I was doing, where I was working, and so on. I was confused. Honestly, I did not know how to react in that instance because many years had passed. I don't know whether I should have moved on or not, but I was not comfortable with her around. I responded to her with single-syllable answers. She kept asking me about my grandparents, my work, and if I was even seeing anyone. To be honest with you guys, I was super perplexed and could not place my finger on why exactly she would even show up. However, a few minutes into the conversation, I asked her bluntly why she's here. Guess what? She told me that she missed me. I almost laughed in her face. I told her that she and I both knew what happened that day when she threw me out of the house, and I was not a father who would fall for her words. I told her that she threw me out of a house as an act of cold revenge, and we both knew that I would be the last person on earth that she would miss and vice versa. She broke into a big sigh and then started off by saying that since my father's getting old, he's unable to work as hard as he used to. Hence, it's becoming increasingly difficult for them to fund their children's education. She almost started sobbing and said raising 3 children with just one income with such inflation in the country was very difficult. I didn't know that they had 3 children. I offered her a glass of water and asked her what kind of help she was seeking from me. She asked me to fund her children's education. I was caught off guard, and I hesitantly told her I needed to think about it because it was not a matter of a few dollars. She said that she would visit me again next weekend to follow up my decision, and I just nodded. When she was leaving, I handed her a few boxes of Belgian chocolates, which I got from my last business trip. She was happy and hugged me. That was our first hug ever. That was the first time I realized that she is also capable of generating motherly affection. Well, it's been 2 weeks since then, but I'm not yet able to decide whether to give that money or not. I spoke to my friends regarding this, and everyone immediately advised me against it because of what she had done to me. I too don't really want to give away my hard-earned money, but then I think about those 3 children whose future may depend on the money, and I mean, they're at fault, right? Honestly, I hate myself for not denying it up front that day. It would have been much better than taking this long and refusing it. Although, at that moment, it was a no from inside. I did not have the guts to say it, and hence I bought some time. Last weekend, she was supposed to visit me, but in order to avoid her, I called her and told her that I would be out of town. A few days ago, she called me again and asked if I would be available this weekend, and I said yes. Now, I know that she'll be there this weekend, and I was also thinking of dodging this weekend, but I realized there's no point in dragging it out. I have to make a decision. I've just bought a house and a new car, and I have EMIs to pay. I don't know what to do, guys. Any advice to tackle this situation? What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. So I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. There is multiple updates for this story. Let's just go ahead and hop into update number 1. If you guys are new to the channel, smash that subscribe button for daily videos. And here is your first update. After thinking a lot about it, I decided to loan out the amount instead of giving away my money. I mean, that was the best deal I could give to the person who tormented my childhood. I too did not have any support from my father, and I believe that self-dependency actually made me a better person. Besides, they don't have to pay any interest or mortgage or anything. So, when she arrived at my house that weekend, I told her about my proposal, and she turned absolutely pale. I thought she would be happy that at least I tried to help her, but God knows what delusional world she's living in. She acted surprised that I was offering a loan for my siblings, and that too for their education, and I was like, why not? Although she was so mad, quite evident on her face, she gulped her pride and started by saying that I was doing quite well off. I had my own house, a fancy car, a high-paying job, and on top of that, I was single, so it was my moral responsibility to take care of my family. I was so mad when she used the word morally responsible. I mean, she should be the last person on earth talking about morals. I cut her off midway and said that whatever I had was because of my hard work and my grandparents' support, and that I owed this to no one. I'm not morally responsible for anybody. She switched gears, realizing that she's made me mad, and she admitted, well, dear, I know you're mad at me because of what happened 12 years ago, but trust me, my little boy, that was all to make you a better person and prepare you for this tough, cruel world. Now, look at you. You're such a successful man at such a young age, and don't you think those struggles have helped you shape into a resilient person? I had zillions of things to give back to her, but I chose not to drag the situation out and said, and I quote, "Well then, in that case, your children too need to learn these life skills, don't they? So let them take a loan from me and pay me back when they're able to earn." Her face was flustered. She could no longer mask it, and she burst out in anger, saying that I was still the disobedient brat I used to be, and had not changed a bit. I repeated the same thing for her, that she too is still the same wicked, cruel woman. Nothing has changed. She bit her tongue and said that my selfishness was the reason I'm still single, and she cursed me, saying that I would never be able to love anyone, nor would anyone ever love me. I would be deprived of love in my entire life, and I just smirked and opened the door for her, indicating that she should get out now. Although I think I handled the situation quite well, somewhere inside, I don't know, I'm affected by her mean words. She was right to the extent that I've always been deprived of love. I mean, I lost my mother at such an early age. I barely got my father's love after we were married, and I have no siblings. I have no partner. Whatever little love or affection I got was from my grandparents. Two has been growing old and weak. If she were gone, I would have literally nobody. Update number 2. After I posted my last update, I was really feeling low. Despite trying to forget what Ruth said, I was just not able to move on, so I visited my grandmother yesterday, and to my surprise, she said that she was expecting me that day. I asked her how she sensed that I was going to visit, and she said she got a call from some other relatives that I had misbehaved with Ruth when she came to meet with me. Well, they told my grandmother that Ruth had been very upset that I did not even let her inside the house, abused her, and slammed the door right there in her face, and Ruth has told everyone that she came to meet me so that she could reconcile me with my father and the family could be reunited. But I was still the monstrous child who vandalized her home 12 years ago. I was shocked to my core, but before telling my side of the story, I even went to ask my grandmother if she believed all these accusations. She held my hand and said, "No, I know it was all bull crap. I also know that she would have troubled your mind with her cruel words, and that's why I was expecting you to be here. I know you would be distressed." I immediately hugged her and tried to act like a 10-year-old. I told her not to die because she was the only one who loved me. Then I narrated to her the entire thing, how Ruth had pestered me for the money and cursed me when I offered a loan instead of giving away freebies. She started raging from inside. She even grinned through her teeth and then said, "That jerk has crossed all her levels. It's time to teach her some lessons." She pacified me and assured me that she would have, avenge of my humiliation. I asked her what she was going to do. She said that she would do anything to destroy Ruth. She got so agitated that I had to pacify her and calm her down. I spent the rest of the day with her, and we went for lunch, and then I took her sightseeing in her wheelchair. We had a good time together. She insisted that I push my work to the back seat and focus on dating girls and settling down in life. When I was leaving, she hugged me and made me promise that I would marry before she died, and she promised to teach Ruth a lesson for life. I don't know where my 85-year-old grandmother is up to, but I felt so lighthearted after spending the day with her. Even if she's unable to do anything, her unwavering support is going to keep me motivated. I'll update you guys if anything develops. Update number 3. This is the final update by OP. Oh my goodness. I truly underestimated my old grandmother. She's a damn capable smashing anyone who messes with her. So a few days after I visit my grandma, I get a call from my distant cousin whom I have not met for ages. He said that my grandmother had organized a family get-together the following weekend, and everyone was looking forward to it as the day she disclosed in the will. I almost cracked up, thinking that that poor old lady had nothing to create a will for, but I did not say a word. The cousin said that everyone was expecting me to be the heir to her will since I was closest to her and grandfather. I asked him on a fun note if that was the reason he called me after so many years, because I was about to get a fortune. He laughed, indicating that I had caught him. I hung up the phone and dialed my grandmother, and I told her what I had heard from the cousin. She too laughed at it. I asked her what she was up to. She just laughed even harder and asked me to be present for the get-together, please. I had no clue what this lady was up to. On the supposed day, I went to my grandmother's place early to see if she needed me, but she had asked everyone to get their own food and drinks because she could not provide and serve them. I admire her for her strong persona. Slowly, the family members started flocking in with their snacks and drinks, and some of them offered those to me and my grandmother. Some of them set up the food counter, and my grandmother warned them that everyone had to clean up the mess before leaving the house because she was too fragile to do it herself. Everyone obliged. My father arrived with Ruth, and I don't know why I felt so disgusted to see them. I barely made any eye contact with them at all, and I just sat there beside my grandmother. As everyone settled down and asked her for the reason for the sudden invitation, she said that she wanted to unveil something. And oh my goodness, what happened next had me shivering. She started off by asking everyone, and I quote, "Do you guys know why Juan left his parents 12 years ago?" "Oh, You guys must have heard how he vandalized the home and abused my darling Ruth that day." All the eyeballs shifted to me, and mine shifted to Ruth. She was flustered, rubbing her palms. Granny went on to reveal the truth about what happened that day and how Ruth locked me outside of my own home on a frigid evening and how she tortured and humiliated me in front of friends and cousins. My father intervened and asked what the reason was for digging into the past. My grandmother yelled at him and asked him to sit down. She said that she wanted to clear the air before her death. She revealed how Ruth insulted her and my grandfather when they intervened that day, and everybody was shocked. Ruth tried to interrupt and present her side of the story, but my uncle just berated her aptly and said everyone knew her side of the story, but it's time for us to know the real story. Ruth said that Granny was old and did not remember the details correctly, and she went on to say that I've manipulated Granny against her and my father. My Granny went on to say, "Fine, I might not remember vividly what happened 12 years ago, but do you remember how you begged in front of Juan to fund your child's education just a month ago?" My father stood up in shock and asked Ruth if that was true. Ruth gazed down on the floor and said she would explain everything later, and my grandmother asked my father if he wasn't earning well enough that his wife had to beg this way. And when she was denied, she cursed me and spread these false rumors about me. It came out that my father was already paying well for the children's education and had no intention of cutting that money. Ruth started shouting that all of these were lies, just to frame her. She didn't curse me or spread any rumors, and to this, everyone confirmed that she had spoken ill words against me and spread negativity about my character. It came out that when she learned that I was doing well, she planned to squeeze money from me in order to fulfill some of her lavish desires. After being rebuked by everyone, she ran out of the house, calling my grandmother a jerk. My father tried to chase her, but gave up instead and came back and apologized to Grandma. She then narrated everything in absolute detail and everything that I've been through. I was crying by then, and I felt so weak that I did not even look at everyone. All my past memories of trauma came running into my mind, and I was so engrossed in them. The family got into a lot of spicy drama that day, but most importantly, my father got to see the actual color of his wife. I'm sure he would have known her by now, but what led to my hatred for the family was clear that day. He soon left the house, and the remaining family members too apologized to me and hugged me, and everyone left, and I buried my face in my grandmother's lap, and I cried for hours. She then asked me to take her out to dinner. A day later, my father called and actually apologized to me for Ruth's behavior. Well, he said that he wanted to meet in person but did not have the courage to do so. I went ahead and told him that he was so equally responsible for my traumatic childhood because he was so blinded by Ruth's love. Well, he accepted his mistake and asked for my forgiveness, and he even requested that I meet him, but I denied it. I'm not sure if I have forgiven him or if I ever will. For now, I just want to be away from all this drama and concentrate on building my life. Amidst this, I met a girl at my office party 2 months ago, and we have hit it off really well. I don't know how far that'll go, but I definitely do want to give it a shot. I realized that for at least the last month, I've been so occupied with this family drama that I'm not giving her enough time. I mean, I'm not talking to her or meeting her as often as I should. I don't know what the future holds for me, I don't. I'm not sure whether my grandmother will be able to make it to my wedding, but I'm not rushing into it. Just taking everything a bit by bit, and I'm feeling light and happy after a long time. Thank you. Wow, so this Ruth person was absolutely out of line. And it turns out OP's father didn't even know that Ruth was begging for money from OP. And the whole family turned on Ruth and rebuked her. So I do want to hear from you guys what exactly you thought about this story. Do you think that a bit of revenge and, well, it was satisfied at the end with some karma? Let me know your thoughts about it in the comment section down below. Here's the question. Do you think Ruth got everything she deserved? Let me know your opinion on that one, guys. You know how much I love to read the comments and all that, so I'll see you in the comment section. If you guys are new to the channel, my name's Mr. Reddito. I narrate stories every single day. And we have a little bit of topics for everybody here, so smash that subscribe button. I'll see you guys tomorrow, but do remember one thing. It's cool to be kind. See ya.